Every time I'd come into the shop, there was the same scene playing out. Vinny was busy doing a job while you stood there, holding his hand like he needed supervision. That wasn't how things were supposed to work. Me and him split everything. Equally, we'd started together just yesterday, and from the start, the idea was teamwork. But at some point, you've got to get your own hands dirty. Instead of just standing by and watching everyone else do the work, why not jump in? Grab a welder, grind some metal, contribute to the build. Every bike that comes through these doors needs to get built, and it gets done because everybody's working all the time. That's the system. Everyone pulls their weight. And you know what? This isn't new. This is the same sort of thing we've been dealing with for the past 10 years. A full decade of the same dynamic. We're partners in this shop. You've been involved from the start. But what really happened to Paul Teutul Jr. from American Chopper? Imagine you're watching your favorite reality show, expecting another episode of custom motorcycle magic, when suddenly, chaos erupts. A grown man, in this case Paul Teutul Jr., starts hurling chairs across the shop while screaming at his own father, and it's all happening on national television. That shocking, unfiltered moment didn't just become one of reality TV's most viral memes. It tore apart a family business, sparked a bitter legal battle, and left fans everywhere asking the same question. What happened to one of the most talented custom bike builders on TV? What's wild is that the real story behind that explosion of rage goes far deeper than anyone could have guessed. And what Paul Jr. has been up to since that day might actually surprise you. If you've ever wondered what became of the man who walked away from millions of dollars in one of the most popular reality shows of its time, then stick around. This is the complete, unfiltered story of Paul Teutul Jr., single quotes his rise, fall, and incredible comeback. Paul Jr.'s story starts long before television cameras ever rolled. Born Paul Michael Teutul in 1974, he grew up in a world of steel, sparks, and welding torches. By the time he was just 12 years old, he was already learning steel construction and fabrication in his father's shop. While other kids his age were playing video games or riding bicycles around the neighborhood, Paul Jr. was inside, learning how to bend, cut, and shape metal into precise, functional designs. His father, Paul Sr., owned Orange County Iron Works. It seemed only natural that his son would follow in his footsteps. But even from a young age, Paul Jr. wasn't simply copying what his father did. He was developing his own eye for artistry and craftsmanship. Over the years, he mastered the techniques of steel fabrication, working on everything from basic railings to intricate decorative pieces. The real turning point came when he discovered motorcycles. The combination of mechanical engineering and artistic creativity struck a chord with him. By his 20s, Paul Jr. had found his calling in custom chopper design, and word of his talent began spreading among motorcycle enthusiasts. This wasn't just a job for him, it was a passion that consumed him. That passion would soon launch him into fame. When American Chopper premiered on the Discovery Channel in 2002, it was meant to be a straightforward reality show about building custom motorcycles at Orange County Choppers. But it became a cultural phenomenon, thanks not only to the stunning bikes but to the explosive family dynamic. Paul Sr. was the no-nonsense old-school boss who valued discipline above all else, while Paul Jr. was the creative visionary whose artistic approach often clashed with his father's practical mindset. Their arguments were raw, emotional, and utterly real, and audiences couldn't look away. For 7 seasons and 6 years, viewers tuned in to watch the Teutul's create some of the most jaw-dropping motorcycles ever built. Widow Bike, with its gothic, webbed design, looked like it had rolled straight out of a Tim Burton film. The futuristic I-Root bike seemed like a piece of art from another century. Every curve, every polished chrome accent, every custom component was planned and executed with obsessive precision. These bikes weren't just machines, they were sculptures on wheels. But success brought its own problems, as the show's popularity soared. The pressure inside Orange County Choppers mounted. What viewers saw as entertaining family drama was, in reality, a toxic workplace dynamic that was eroding relationships. Paul Sr.'s leadership style was intense, full of shouting and public criticism, while Paul Jr. struggled to balance his roles as an artist, a TV personality, and a son trying to maintain a relationship with an increasingly difficult father. The breaking point came in 2009, during what seemed like a simple argument over Paul Jr.'s habit of arriving late to work. But this wasn't about clocking in on time. It was about years of tension, creative differences, and two stubborn men unable to compromise. The shouting escalated, tempers flared, and Paul Jr. finally snapped. He began throwing chairs. Not one, but several across the shop while the cameras rolled. The confrontation ended with Paul Sr. firing his own son on the spot. Paul Jr. walked out, probably expecting they'd reconcile in a few days, and neither realized they had just ended their working relationship and destroyed their business. Partnership in front of millions of viewers. The aftermath was brutal. Paul Jr. wasn't just an employee. He was a co-founder and 20% owner of Orange County Choppers. When Paul Sr. decided to buy him out, what could have been a civil business discussion turned into an all-out legal war. Both sides hired lawyers. Accusations flew, and for 2 years they fought it out in court. Legal fees piled up, their relationship crumbled, and American Chopper was eventually canceled. To make matters worse, Paul Jr. was bound by a contract preventing him from building motorcycles for a full year. When the dust settled, he had lost his job, his share of the company, his connection to his father, but he had gained just enough money to start over, instead of rushing back into bike building. Paul Jr. made an unexpected move, launching a company that manufactured steel camping stoves. For someone who had created some of the world's most stunning motorcycles, this seemed like a strange step backwards, but there was logic behind it. The contract ban meant he couldn't build bikes, so he used his metalworking skills elsewhere. More importantly, he wanted to prove that he could create a successful business from scratch, without leaning on the Teutul name or American Chopper fame. When his contract restrictions ended in 2010, Paul Jr. designs shifted back to motorcycles. And this time, Paul Jr. was free to fully express himself. Without his father's oversight or the pressures of a TV production schedule, his designs became even more personal and refined. Commissions rolled in from celebrities, collectors, and everyday enthusiasts. His shop began earning a national reputation entirely independent of his past. Then, in 2018, nearly a decade after the split, American Chopper returned, and both Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. agreed to appear. This time, the focus was less on drama and more on the craft. In 2020, they reunited for a special called The Last Ride, working together for the first time in years to build a collaborative custom bike. The result was breathtaking, a fusion of both shops' best qualities and, more importantly, proof that father and son could work together without reigniting old conflicts. Today, Paul Jr. is worth an estimated $2 million, but more valuable than the money is his independence, creative, financial, and personal. In 2021, he expanded his vision by partnering with German manufacturer Rough Cycles to launch the PJD electric bicycle line, proving his designs can adapt to new technologies and sustainable transportation trends. His personal life has flourished too. He married Rachel in 2015, and together they're raising their son Hudson in a far healthier family environment than the one Paul Jr. grew up in. Looking back, that infamous chair-throwing incident could have been the end of his career, a cautionary tale of family feuds and reality TV excess. Instead, it became the turning point. Paul Jr. turned the worst moment of his professional life into motivation to build something better, entirely on his own terms. Now, he builds motorcycles not for TV cameras or to prove himself to his father, but simply because he loves the craft. His designs are more meaningful, more personal, and more successful than ever before. His journey proves that sometimes, losing everything is the only way to discover who you really are and what you're truly capable of creating.